In this video, I'm going to show you 5 mistakes you do not want to be making ahead of your ACCA SBL Strategic Business Leader examination, specifically for the Athletic Transcentral Pre-Seed information for the March 2024 exam. My name is James and I'm going to take you through my exclusive notes you can see above me, and if you'd like to access them and download the PDF yourself, just click the link in the description of this video and you're more than welcome to use them, have them, put them in your study plan. You'll also find down there that I'm associated and affiliated with Astranti. As you all know, I'm completely transparent on the channel, where if you were to buy one of their mock exams, for example, I'd be entitled to a small percentage as a result, and it helps to run the YouTube channel. But as always, it's just a massive thank you to everyone who supports me, subscribes, likes the videos, and I hope this video, watch it to the end, because if these would be the things that if I was in your situation, if you don't do them, you've got a very good chance of passing, along with looking at the other videos I've done on the channel. First of all then, number 1, for your notes, we're going to get straight into it now, because this is a football sector question on here. And you may have seen in my initial reaction video where I talk about Everton being deducted points in the Premier League in this season. So they were deducted 10 points there for breaking financial fair play. And lo and behold, in our example here for Athletic Transcentral, we have financial fair play regulations. There are also involved in this example, we have promotions and sponsorships, which is a case of, as I go down on here, you can see it, we've got the club shop and the stadium, the trading facilities, but it's these commercial deals. They have a number of commercial sponsors, no lead sponsors, and AT has not sold any naming rights to the stadium or other facilities. Now, if you're a football fan and you're doing the SBL exam, you'll be aware of, say, Barcelona have changed the name of the Nou Camp to the Spotify Nou Camp, or Brighton play at the Amex, Leicester play at the King Power. They are examples in the real world, but the question you're asking me now, I can hear it, is, James, can I use these in the actual examination? And my answer, sadly, to that is no on there. Spurs, Tottenham Hotspur is another one. I'll just bring it down here. As to the stadium, what Tottenham did is they developed their stadium, made it into a sort of concert venue. They have the NFL there. They use it for conferences. The knowledge that you have from those real life examples, you can apply to the SBL examination for the pre-C materials. But what you need to do is actually just talk about it for the case in point for Athletic Transcentral, and don't go into it as a complete football fan talking about Tottenham or whatever it may be. So that is tip number 1, just focus on the actual case study that we have, Athletic Transcentral. Use your knowledge of what has happened in the real world, but do not give real world examples on there. You will not gain any marks for it. Number 2, for my tips that I've got down here. Number 2, trying to question spot and predict. And I know what you're thinking, James, hang on a second, then what's the point in all of these notes? Well, there are lots of students who will actually say, write out answers that if a SWOT analysis came up, or if they were predicting maybe pestle, something like that, then they'd actually base it on transparency, stakeholders, the environment, and start to try and predict answers based on what we're actually given. Now, this is not what you want to do at all. What you should be looking to do is saying, there are hints, like you can see in point 4 above me, for the website extracts that pestle could be tested. If we scroll back up again, you can see on here as well that we're going to have the strengths and the weaknesses that, again, linked into a sort of, that could be a SWOT analysis. But what I'm getting at here is, do not base an answer purely on what you can actually see in the pre-C materials. There are the unseen information on the exam day. We have no idea what they're going to set for the requirements. You've got to be thinking on your toes, and it's a case of, I think if you question spot, then you're going to miss out on some of the other details that you can see in the notes on the screen as to average attendances, the board structure. What I'm getting at is, you need to be of the mindset that when it comes to the exam day and they show those requirements, you know exactly which area of the pre-C materials it relates to, and then you're going to the unseen information on the exam day, putting it all together, and then giving an objective response in your answers that build in the professional skills marks as well. That's going to get you the 50 plus, with the key word on here, which I've linked it at the end of this video, so check it out, as to the key word to passing your SBL exam is planning your answers on there, taking the information and relaying it and making sure you hit the nail on the head for what the examiner and the marker is looking for on there. So that's tip number 2, trying to question spot and predict. Please don't, but just make sure you're aware of all the little hints and tips that you can see on my notes on here that will give you a sort of flavour for it. May come up in a particular area of the syllabus, but we cannot guarantee and should not be predicting or even writing out scripting answers that we would just relay in the real thing. Number 3 now. Okay, so number 3, forgetting the key details of athletic transcentral and what were given in the pre-C materials. So what am I getting at from here? What were the key sort of things that really sort of stood out to me that I'd go, some students, they're just going to forget it on there. The first one, if you've got pen and paper, note it down. So you can see on here where my mouse is, 5 professional clubs have their own academies on there where they recruit players from a young age. That is 5 out of the 18 in the top league. And the key point there, we are not told in anything in this pre-C material that Athletic Transcentral have their own academy. This is one of the areas that teams get around financial fair play, where if you bring up a player through your academy, that means they sit in your balance sheet at a value of 0. So if you were to sell them, that gives you a positive aspect when it comes down to the financial fair play. Can you see on here on the left hand side for the relevant income, notice where my mouse is, profit on sale of players. So it's a massive positive to have an academy, and we could be given some unseen information on the exam day that competitive teams have sold players from their academy, and then that is not going to impact them as much for financial fair play on there. The other factor which I think some students are just going to completely overlook is back down here. Look at this for the stadium. Basically what's happened is there are the bigger teams in the league who, I think it's the top 3, have actually had their stadium reviewed and increased in the last 3 years. So here you go, I'll put my mouse on it. The clubs with the top 3 teams in Division 1 in the KFL have all moved to new stadiums. So that's Maritime, 1922 and Orient. That of course is not Athletic Transcentral. And from that, you can see on there their capacities, 73,000, 70,000, 62,000. Athletic Transcentral is only 38,000. And then you've got to think there's going to be a sort of balance that we could work on here. Maybe Pestle could be brought into it, but they've got the land already available and they've got some facilities, but are they going to completely build a whole new stadium, or are they going to expand on the one they currently have because of the extra potential revenue streams, hospitality on there, and they even mention considering other sporting events or concerts which they cannot currently provide. So that would come down to that final sort of summary information at the bottom for the financial information, increasing the different areas of revenue, which it's been increasing year on year, but look at the profitability. The earnings before interest and tax is taking a downward spiral along with the relevant earnings, which is a risk for financial fair play. The other key matter was they don't have a main sponsor as well. Just touching on there, I mentioned it for the Barcelona Stadium, the Spotify Nou Camp, but again, commercial activities. Some students will just forget that line that they have a number of sponsors, but no sponsor is being regarded as a lead sponsor on there. And you think they're 8th in the top league. Surely they should have a lead sponsor, and that is a massive gap for future revenue streams. So number 3, that's the point of the notes, I think, to highlight these details, is forgetting the key details and then not referring to those in your answer on the exam day. Number 4 now, this is what I'd be personally doing, what is going to make the difference, especially when you've got all this information. Number 4, not doing a mock paper before you do the real thing. And that is doing it to time with unseen information, applying a scenario. And if you want to have access to the notes that I've done in a previous sitting on there, that would be for December 2023. Again, I can link those down below so you can access them on there, and utilising the CBE platform. Astranti, as I touched on at the start, they offer a mock exam service. If you click the link down below, you can actually attempt a mock and someone will mark it for you on there. But it's either you're going to mark it yourself or you can get someone else to do it for you. But that is where your time management comes into it, answering 100 marks on the paper, moving from unseen information to pre-seen information, to then getting it down in the CBE platform. And then from that, there are a few little calculations that I'm just going to highlight for you again as to the average attendance for the men's team we had at 36,670. The reason why I highlight that is because it's one of the key performance indicators, as you can see on the left-hand side there. So this is where we've got the number of season tickets, we're not provided any information, club website as well. All these factors could be thrown at you on the exam day. The other final thing, just to mention in terms of not doing a mock paper and making sure you actually do one for those calculations, is that there are a couple that you can do beforehand. I've touched on them in the notes on here, if we can find them on there, is that when you're going through it, we've got the actual, here you go, so we've got the reserves and the women's. So the women's matches only attract about 3,000 fans and the reserve matches only attract about 1,000. So those little calculations on there, again, are going to definitely help you out. So that is tip number 4, not doing a mock paper 2 times under exam conditions and then also getting it marked so that you can basically use it as a trial run, because it's a whole different type of exam, especially when you throw in the professional skills marks and the ethics as well. Last but not least, number 5 now, being familiar with the financial fair play calculation and impact if found guilty. Now this is what I'm assuming is, if I was having a nice chit chat with Simon Jordan, we would have a lovely discussion about financial fair play, but the average ACCA student is not going to know much about financial fair play, how it's calculated. And the reason why I highlight this is because we're actually given a financial fair play breakdown, the income and expenses. So I'm there going, hang on a second, maybe you could be given some income and expenses on the exam day to total up, to work out if they've actually breached the regulations. And the reason why I say that is we're given a 6-year breakdown there. And if we come down to the actual diagrams and the summary at the bottom, we're told the relevant earnings, so that is the relevant expenditure plus the income on there, or relevant income minus the relevant expenditure, is on the down spiral, and we're given 3 years there. Well, if you come back up to the calculation, we're given 6 years on here. So it's a case of, could we be given some actual figures in the real thing? And I've put on here, very key to remember all these types of penalties, where the fine, do they have enough cash flow to actually cover a short-term fine? Maybe it might be. Loss of points, could that mean a relegation where they drop down to Division 2, especially for the men's team, which is one of the main source of income. A loss of prize money, not being allowed in the domestic cup, and even worse would be relegation. So all these sort of things where we're not predicting, but it could happen as to a financial fair play calculation, a potential impact on there, maybe there's an ethical breach or something on those lines, and then it's a case of having to calculate it and then discussing the impact if they were to be found guilty. But again, it's one of those things, you think, if they're going to put it in and they're going to be doing comparisons with other football clubs and they've put it in the diagrams, I think it's definitely going to be an area of concern that I'd really want to know how it's calculated and what the impact would be for the football club if a certain penalty from the breach was imposed on them as well. But that is my 5th and final mistake not to make ahead of your athletic transcendental examination. I hope you found today's video helpful, and if you'd like the notes that you can see on the screen, just click the link in the description, you can download them. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'm going to be putting on a few more videos, and of course I'm going to leave a couple of videos up at the top, the SBL playlist. Click that, loads of free resources, and I'll see you on the other side for another video soon. So best of luck with your revision, and thank you very much.